Here's my review of My Hero Academia, Chapter 248, One Thing at a Time. And we basically start off with Deku doing a whole little pity party about how we can't master his quirk fast enough. And now he has 6 more to master once he gets through all these. So yeah, definitely problematic. Then switch over to Endeavor, stopping a hit and runner. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase in my entire life. I've heard hit and run. I never heard of hit and runner. That sounds weird. I'm not sure that's a bad translation or what, but I've literally never heard that before. And of course, Kachan's complaining that he only lost in the race with Endeavor because his quirk takes longer to use when it's cold out, which, makes sense. His power is literally turning his sweat into explosions, and if he's cold, he's not sweating, so problematic. And then Endeavor just gets ridiculously petty. And if you're wondering, I noticed that glass villain had those flunkies earlier. Kachan even has to say, "You're so petty," and Deku's like, "Really, Kachan? That feels exactly the kind of thing you would say." Like, seriously, similarities between Endeavor and him are just weird right now. Then gives a nice little lesson to Kachan about how he can't just rely on excuses. Oh, it's hard in the winter. Too freaking bad. If you can't rely on excuses here, because if you fail, if you're too slow, people will freaking die. And he's giving this whole speech while he literally stopped a truck with his freaking bare hands, saving a woman who was in the middle of the road. I kind of feel like, he could have just moved the woman out of the way if he was that fast, but hey, whatever. You do you, Endeavor. He also gives Shoto and Bako 2 assignments. Learn how to build up and release, and learn how to condense your power. Essentially, unleash your maximum power for a single second, and learn how to focus your power into a small point. Gotta love it while he's doing this. The lady he saved is screaming at the driver, whose truck is just absolutely destroyed. But the focus thing is essentially the exact thing Kachan's been doing with his armor-piercing shot, where he focuses attack from a big explosion to a small area so that he can get through denser, harder materials or heavily armored enemies. Though when Deku points this out, he's like, "I'm gonna get a freaking restraining order against you, you weirdo!" Which I just absolutely loved. This also does apply to Deku, though, because he can use the max output for a second at a time with full cowling. He can essentially do it subconsciously, where he hits really hard and then goes back down, but he can't do it with Air Force subconsciously. It requires a lot of focus and attention and energy to make sure it works right. And Endeavor basically explains to him, okay, just focus on your Air Force until it becomes second nature. You gotta be able to do it while doing full cowling at full strength, while doing everything else, while being a hero. And completely forget about the whole whip thing for now. It's just way above you. And once more, Deku gets a complicated matter explained very simply to him. First it was picture the egg not exploding, then it was picture this whatever it was called in a microwave, gotta cook it evenly, and now it's driving. Steering, braking, accelerating, checking behind, blah 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 blah. Those are a series of things you all have to be able to do at the same time while you're driving. Same thing with his powers. If he wants to be able to use multiple quirks at the same time, he needs to learn how to use each one individually until he can use it essentially subconsciously without thinking about it. He needs to be able to launch the Air Force attacks as simply as he breathes, so therefore he can then work on the next one, the whip, until that becomes second nature, and then he can add the next one, and the next one, and the next one. He needs to build up the powers over time. As he says, no matter how strong your power is, the foundation's gotta be built on steady diligence. So his advice is basically, stop worrying about your 6 other quirks. There's no about those technically. Just worry about the one you have right now, and then work on adding in the second power, then the third, then the fourth, then the fifth. Which, good advice, but, we got 4 months until all of Japan is essentially destroyed, so kind of feel like Deku needs to step it up a little bit. This, real-world experience is definitely helping him, definitely making him stronger and better, and really drilling in those lessons he's learned, helping them take root in him. But it's still going to be a little hard for him to unlock everything. My only, the only real hope, I think, is that the other 6 quirks aren't really this combat focused. They're more like I don't know, sensing enemy presence or something like that. Uh, Regeneration, that'd definitely be helpful. Seriously, that'd definitely be helpful. Something along those lines would definitely make it a lot easier for him to use his quirk. But if it's stuff like this, if it's like 6 more just combat based quirk abilities, he is in a lot of trouble. Though, as Endeavor says, for now, relax. I don't really care if you mess up because there's not a single thing you can do that's gonna have the slightest impact on my work here. Because I am just that freaking amazing. So, good advice, I guess. Anyway, then we flash forward a week, which is a little concerning given that we're on a tight timetable here, but I guess it's going to give us time for them to start mastering their new abilities, their new homework assignments Endeavor's essentially given them, so they can, show some improvement and they can talk about it now. And where are they going to talk about it? Oh boy, oh boy. Family freaking dinner. I can't freaking wait for this. Oh god, this is gonna be fun. So yeah, Endeavor gets a call from his only daughter, saying she's super excited that Shoto's training under him with all of his friends. Honestly, I don't think he's ever actually had friends before, which really sad given the dark, depressing life he's lived up to this point. But his big sister's happy for him now, so she decided you should bring them all home with you tonight, and I'll whip up a big family dinner for everyone. So excited for this. It's gonna be so awkward and so painful and so absolutely freaking amazing. I also think this might be the time we get the Dobby thing confirmed. Like they have a family portrait somewhere on the wall, and Deku's like, "Oh, are these your brothers?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's my long lost brother. I forget his name. He disappeared 5 years ago. His quirk burned him, or just some little piece of information that we can finally say, okay, it's frickin' Dobby already." Because it almost feels like too obvious, and yet no real confirmation at this point. I mean, it makes sense if it's Dobby. I would have no real problem with that, if that's his long lost brother. But at the same time, the community is kind of taking it for granted that yes, this is his brother, that 100%, no doubt about it. But yeah, it's going to be a fun family dinner. Oh, and little tidbits. I ship Todoroki's sister with Eraserhead. I know that may sound like it's completely insane out of nowhere, but in the School Days light novel, they have a really good moment together where they basically talk like equals because she's a teacher, so she gets what he's going through, and he gets what she's going through. So it's just a really great moment between the two of them, and literally like the only time I've ever seen him act like a freaking human being before. So yeah, weird ship, I know, but I love them together. It's gonna be awkward. It's gonna be painful. I just can't freaking wait. Sadly, I will have to wait a bit longer because it's off next week. Weird scheduling. Though for some reason, it looks like for the rest of them, they're coming out early. The rest of them seem like they're doing another early release, so I'm not sure what's up with that. But let me know what you think in the comments section down below. How are Bakugo and Todoroki going to use their newfound lessons? I mean, Bakugo's already got the armor shot set up, so he can focus his power into a single point. I guess it's going to be more focused on using that in battle. Because it seemed like when we first saw it that it takes time to charge and build up and release it. And that doesn't really work too well for him in the middle of battle. I mean, yes, I could see it working if he has to break down a door or something like that to save people behind, but in actual combat, that's still iffy. As for unleashing his max output, I'm really not sure about that one because, it's based on how much he's sweating, so... I mean, he already has the glove, that releases all of his sweat at once. I really don't know how he can do more than that. I mean, I'm guessing his quirk lets him sweat more than a normal human being, or maybe he could use his quirk to make mini explosions all around his arm to heat him up to make him sweat more or something like that. Really not sure. As for Todoroki, that sounds like flash fire to me. Unleashing his max output like that and being able to focus your power to make it harder and stronger. Yeah. I certainly don't think Bako would like it if Todoroki developed his own armor-piercing shot. That would not go over well. But again, let me know what you think down below. Be sure to like, subscribe. Until next time.
Peace.